Hi and welcome to History Makers TV. I'm Matt Prater. Today we're speaking with Jody Guerrero. She's a cancer survivor, author and speaker. It's great to have you on the show today. How are you, Jody?
Great, thank you so much for having me, Matt.
Now your story is really an impacting story. In 2006 you were really unsure about your health. You had these symptoms and you couldn't really work out what it was. Tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, well, I was a very busy mum. I was working full time. I had two little kids at the time. They were 2 and 5. And I was just like any other mum going through life. I'd been married for a while, and my husband and I had been working on paying off a house, and we really needed the extra wage. So I started working full time, and I was working in my dream job and something that I really loved, in an area where I was impacting a lot of people and enjoying myself. And life was just moving along at a normal pace. And one day I woke up and I had really bad shoulder pain. And my shoulder was aching to the point where I had throbbing sensation right down my right arm. And I thought, well, it's a bit strange. I must have picked up something the wrong way. And that kind of came and went, and over time I started to get more symptoms throughout my body, and it was kind of like a progressive thing where I'd have symptoms and pain, and it would come and it would go, and I would talk to my doctor, and my doctor over a period of time investigated a little bit with me, but then after a while he dismissed my concerns, and I started seeing other doctors. Because I was in sort of this place of desperation. I felt like my body was literally breaking down, and I felt like I was literally dying, and no one was listening to me. And I know that a lot of patients have the same concerns, and I had heard about mystery diseases and problems with people not being able to get a diagnosis, and I knew deep in my heart and in my mind that there was something wrong with me, and that the people who were telling me there was nothing wrong with me weren't listening properly. So eventually I got to the point where I'd been to several doctors, and I said to my husband one day, I'm not getting any sleep anymore. I'm going through so much pain and I can't manage my job, and I'm struggling with the house and the family. I need to go to the emergency ward because I'm having even trouble going to the bathroom. I'm having trouble feeling sensation in that area. I'm having trouble with walking on my right leg. I'm having pain through my right side of my body. My left hand side of my body felt normal, but it was almost as if the right hand side of my body was dying. And the frustration of people telling me I was a hypochondriac, and the frustration of people telling me that there was nothing wrong with me, when I knew in my heart that there was something wrong with me, was very difficult. So I convinced my husband. I said, we've got to take the kids to my parents and let's just go. So we packed them up in the car. My husband went with me to the emergency ward. We sat there for 4 hours. Finally, I got to see a senior ER doctor who said, let's just do a CAT scan just to see what's going on in your back, because you shouldn't have that kind of pain in your back. Well, he came back and his face was as white as a ghost. And he said to me, what's that mole on your back? It looks like you've had something removed. Have you had cancer before? And I said to him, why would you ask me about cancer? Not even thinking in my remotest thought that I could possibly have that kind of disease. And eventually he said, we're going to have to keep you in for a couple of days to do some investigations. And it looks like you might have done something where you've got some kind of lump in your back or something. And of course they don't want to tell you what they think is going on until they've sort of briefed you and got you emotionally, mentally ready for what they could be talking about. And that was the beginning of a journey through, it took me 10 weeks in the hospital, and the journey was the beginning of this awful disease called lymphoma. And I had basically disease all through my body, eating into bones, muscles, nerves, basically destroying me inside and trying to kill me. And the reason I was in so much pain was because I had tumours wrapped around nerves, I had tumours eating into bones, I had pain down my right leg because my right leg was threatened. The nerve was being wrapped around by tumours and terrible scar tissue. And it was basically, I was full of cancer. And it was really a journey then to find what was wrong, what kind of cancer it was. And I remember that night when I was in the ward, a young Asian doctor came to me and she said, "I have been chosen to tell you what's wrong with you." It's like she got the short straw, and none of the other doctors wanted to tell me. She said, "We found a malignancy in your back. Seems that you have cancer all through the right-hand side of your body, and we're not sure what it is, but we think maybe we can treat it and you might be able to get out of it, but we're not sure." And that was the beginning of really understanding how desperate my situation was.
You must have been going through so many emotions at the time.
Yeah.
It must have been so difficult for you. How did you cope emotionally with all this struggle?
Well, I think for most people, and this is the same with myself, you go into instant shock. Your brain, your heart and your mind just sort of thinks, well, how can this possibly be? I mean, you think back all of the different things you've tried to do to fix the problem, and you think, what did I do wrong? Why did this happen to me? You start asking big questions. God, why did you do this to me? Why did I deserve this? And you start to forget what the doctors are telling you. So you instantly mentally go into shock. But you also go into survival mode, and you have to sort of every day cope with what you're dealt with. Emotionally, you feel like you want to cry, then you want to be happy, because for me, I was happy that someone actually listened to me and actually understood that I wasn't a hypochondriac and I wasn't making it up. And for me, it was a time of shock, of crying, of being sad, but also questioning the big questions of life. How could this possibly happen?
And there was a story you tell in your journey where there was a moment when you saw the cross. Tell us about that.
So I was, out of the hospital I went to was a major Australian hospital, and I had been in there, well, the total sum of times that I had been, total sum of days that I was in there, weeks, was 10 weeks all up. And I'd been moved around the hospital a few times, and I basically ended up in the haematology ward, which is where they treat blood cancers like leukemias and lymphomas. And this was the type of cancer that I had. And they put me in the one room where I had a beautiful view of the city, but I also had this amazing view, and none of the other rooms had it, but I had an amazing view of this cross that was in the distance. And it was like, at night time it was lit up. It was underneath the flight path of these planes that came into an airport, and it was just beautiful. And it was almost as if God chose that room for me, or it was almost as if there was someone purposely putting me in that room. And every night there was this lit up cross in front of me, and it was a reminder that I had not been forgotten. I had not been abandoned. And for me, my faith was everything, and it was what got me through that difficult time, because, I was starting to think, well, how can this happen to someone, number one, so young, number one, who understands what faith is all about and believes that I'm going to have a healthy, great life. Everyone thinks they're going to have that, and everyone hopes for that. But, it was like a constant reminder. Every night that cross was lit up for me. And it was a message, and it was it was like someone was ministering to me and trying to heal my soul, and remembering or reminding me that I was not abandoned and forgotten. So it was important. A
lot of people blame God when they go through tough times like this. Did you go through that thought process?
Well, I'd been through a number of churches, and I'd had faith for a long time, and I knew that sometimes God will use difficult circumstances to change people. And I knew that there was a purpose for my life. I always knew that there was something special for me. And there were times when I asked God, why would you do this to me? And why would you inflict me with such pain and horrible circumstance? And there was some times when I questioned, should I continue to go on with my faith? Should I turn my back on God for allowing this to happen to me? And there were times when I felt like, he's not here. Why would he be here in this hospital with me, And it always came back down to the cross. It always came back down to being reminded that I was not alone, and that I, regardless of my pain and my circumstances, was not abandoned and dismayed to a point where I was going to be able to give up on life. I had a family to look after. I also had a loving husband who still loves me and has stuck with me through this whole journey. And I had a purpose and a reason for life. And so there were times when I wanted to give up, but I was constantly reminded that there was a reason why I had to keep going.
And you've really got an inspirational story of recovery too. So technically you're in remission now, is that what they call it?
I am in remission, yes. So I've had altogether 63 doses of chemo, radiotherapy and cancer treatment. A lot of blood products as well. So I want to encourage anyone out there who's thinking about giving blood, please do give blood. It helps a lot of cancer patients and a lot of people needing help. And I relapsed after that. I went into remission in 2007. I relapsed in 2008. And then I started to develop a disability with my right leg due to scarring from the initial radiotherapy in 2010. And really what the message is, you know, the doctors have said that I'm an incurable patient, that I will probably have this disease for the rest of my life, that it'll come back over and over again. But what I believe is that miracles happen. And amazing things happen in medical science too. So we have to remember that doctors know only what they know now. They don't know what's coming. And we have to have continual hope that not only that God's in control and that there can be miracles, but also that medical science is continually progressing. So there are continually new medicines coming out that are one day going to cure cancer and one day going to cure my disease. And so I'm in remission and I'm very happy about that. I have a lot of medical problems, but I trust God every day. And I also try to be hopeful about everything, and I also use my journey to raise awareness and help as many people as possible, because there's a lot of people struggling out there.
And you're an ambassador for some support groups. Tell us about those.
So I am a national ambassador for the Australian Patients Association, which is a group that helps patients all around the country to understand their rights as patients, but from a perspective, it's more like a positive perspective rather than an agenda perspective. And also I represent a group called Kui Community, who are all about helping people in the Brisbane area who need equipment and who need vital things to help them through their medical problems. And you know, I'm also involved with a group called the Australian College of Emergency Medicine, and we're trying to change the way emergency departments are right around the nation. So as a consumer, I've been able to have a say in that process. And for other patients out there who are watching and listening, I'd just like to say that there is an opportunity for many people, if you're struggling through disability and illness, there's a way for you to get involved in these things. And you should use your journey and not worry about what people think. You should just get out there and be as positive as you can about your journey, even though it's difficult every day and you might struggle. There are ways that you can contribute back to society and the community.
And you mentioned to me a while back, because I've known you for a few years now, and I've been so impressed with your resilience and your strength and your hope that you're inspiring into others with, you know, your journey of recovery. There's a ministry called Rest Ministries that really helped you out. Tell us about them. So
there are, you know, a lot of websites on the internet to help people with illness and disability. But there's one that really stands out, and I'm not paid for the endorsement or anything, but they're fantastic, and they're called restministries.com. That's a place where people who have an illness or a disability, whether it's debilitating or whether it's a chronic illness or whether it's something that's life-changing, they can go to that website, they can talk to other patients, they can find information about their particular disease. They can discuss the emotional and the spiritual side of their disease, often the mental side of their disease as well, because when you have an illness or a disability, it can be life-changing and impacting on your mental health. And they also have a lot of books and information on how to get through what you're dealing with. So it's really important, I think. And, you know, at the beginning of my disease and my struggle, I just sort of went away from or tried to avoid groups, support groups. But for me, in the end, I found that support groups and talking to patients and even talking to, you know, a psychologist or a psychiatrist was really important, because you're able to just sort of say to those people, this is what I'm going through and this is what I need help with. And it makes you feel like you're a normal person. It makes you understand that you're not the only person on the planet going through your chronic pain or your chronic difficulty, and that there are other people struggling as well, and that there is help out there for you.
And have you found your church community's been a good support to you as well?
Yeah, well, we have a fantastic church that we go to. We love it to bits. We have supportive people around us, and whether you believe in God and you go to a church, and whether you believe in another community group and you're connected to another community group, it's really important to have people around you that love you and support you, and whether you believe in prayer or not, that's an important part for me. It's just important to have people around you that are going to lift you up. And not have people who are going to pull you down and disappoint you or use you in any way, shape or form. You really need to put yourself in a positive place where people around you are going to help you and find the resources you need to keep going every day and to manage what you're dealing with on a positive plane.
And so, Jody, your story is included in a book released called Inspiring Stories of Hope. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, well, this is a great book, and it was a great opportunity for me to get my story into something where I could inspire other women, and not just other women, but men and families as well. For me, it was an opportunity to reach out to people who are really struggling and really dealing with difficult things. And, you know, it's a collection of inspiring, amazing accounts of things that have happened in people's lives where, you know, as a collective, we can inspire each other and we can reach out to other people. So I'd really encourage everyone to go out and get Inspiring Stories of Hope. It's published by Ark House Press, and it's a fantastic print. It's out there in all your bookstores and available on websites as well.
Well, you certainly are inspiring. And before we wrap it up, is there any particular thoughts or quotes or anything you want to share? You know, there might be people watching this that have been struggling with their own sickness. Do you want to just share something with us to wrap up?
Well, for me, and it's different for everyone, but for me, scripture is really a way for me to sort of go back to basics and to understand what life's really all about. And I delve into my Bible, and the one part that really inspires me is Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you," and plans to just, you know, propel you into what He has for you. That's important for me to know that there is a future for me, regardless of what the medical scientists say, and regardless of what is predicted for me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to cling to those words, and I'm going to cling to that promise, and just keep going and do the best I can to help others.
Well, Jody Guerrero, thanks for joining us. I reckon you're a history maker.
Thank you, Matt. It's lovely to meet with you. Thank you.